Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Eric Conroy, a candidate for Congress in Ohio's 1st District. Eric, thank you so much for joining me.
Brittany, thanks for having me. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Eric, you are an Air Force veteran. You also are a former CIA case officer, and now you're running for Congress as a Republican to unseat Democratic Congressman Greg Landsman in Ohio's 1st District. So to start off the conversation, what propelled you to dive into politics?
Sure. Well, for me, it's a couple different reasons, but mainly from my ping-ponging between the Cincinnati area and wherever I was serving at the ends of the earth. I gained a lot of different perspectives, and through those perspectives, I became very concerned and passionate about the future of Southwest Ohio, especially from a social and economic perspective. And I believe that this region deserves a common sense representative to take it into the future. And my opponent, Greg Landsman, unfortunately, has been anything but. And he votes more along the lines of an AOC or a Nancy Pelosi. In fact, he sided with the Biden administration about 98% of the time. So back here, I think there's a need to get back to the basics and have some common sense governing, which I hope to bring.
Greg Landsman, he flipped the seat back in 2022 from red to blue. He then won pretty handily in 2024 by over 9 points. Why do you think you can flip it back from blue to red and win against Greg Landsman? What's the differences here?
Well, I think there's quite a few differences. And one, I think, first is a sense of leadership. And we've seen both recently with the brawl here in Cincinnati and some of our economic and social issues that Greg Landsman is not fit to lead. He does not have the traits or the characteristics to be that leader that this city and this region needs. I think that's first and foremost. And secondly, we've seen a wave across this country of people wanting to get back to the basics for what they care about, the kitchen table issues like jobs and the economy, and putting money back into the pockets of those working class families. And that's really what people care about. And unfortunately, Greg Landsman is too wrapped up in leftist social issues and towing the line with the Democratic Party that he's failed the constituents of this district in that way.
So before this, I want to get back to your past a little bit. You're an Air Force veteran. You worked in the CIA. Now you want to run for Congress. So what from those different roles in life, what are you bringing to this seat that's different from Landsman and different from the Republican primary in general?
Yeah, I think the two traits that I hope to bring from my past work into my future work is leadership and perspective. Both at my time at the Air Force, which included the Air Force Academy, and then about 7 years active duty, and then my time at the CIA as well. I gained some incredible leadership traits, and I know how to solve complex problems to very difficult situations. And first and foremost, that means bringing people around the table to solve issues. And in my last roles, if you didn't listen to other people's opinions and perspectives, people often got hurt. So it's very important from my perspective to drop your ego at the door and listen to others for solutions. And then secondly is perspective. I think I am likely to be the only candidate in this race, primary or general, that has both the local roots and the local knowledge, but also a national and even international perspective. And to be able to combine those mindsets and talk to constituents and businesses here in the district to come up with creative solutions is what I hope to do.
I said this before you and I started this interview, but I actually was in Cincinnati last year. Forbes hosted the Under 30 Summit there, and it's a beautiful city. And I'm curious, when you're looking at the city, when you're looking at Ohio's 1st Congressional District, what are some of those top issues facing voters now and heading into the midterms?
The two main pillars that we are looking to solve are the economics and public safety, right? As you saw here, on your visit, this is a gem of a city. This is a gem of a region. We have a beautiful downtown. We have a beautiful culture here, and we really need to capitalize on it and reach our full potential. But we can't do that when we don't have safe streets, right? If we cannot have someone walk from our stadium district to uptown and not feel safe, we're never going to realize our potential from an economic perspective, and that means attracting the right businesses and young professionals here, but also from a safety perspective as well. So safe streets are really a core tenet of this campaign because it's a public safety issue, but also an economic issue as well.
President Trump, he has a tough on crime approach. He has touted he wants safe streets as well. He recently federalized DC's police force and he deployed the National Guard to the nation's capital. He also threatened to deploy the National Guard to other cities like Chicago. What do you make of that move?
So we have a crime epidemic in this country, right? And Democratic mayors across this country, including here in Cincinnati, have not focused enough on public safety. And the president is within his right to help solve that issue. And we've seen crime drop specifically in D.C., which I previously called home in my past careers, quite significantly with the deterrence of the National Guard on the streets. So crime in this country is an issue, and we need to find creative ways to solve it. And this is a step in the right direction, especially when local governments, democratic governments, don't want to properly fund and train their police forces and leave them shorthanded. And unfortunately, that's what we've seen across the country.
And it seems like this is a real partisan issue now, because I've talked to Democrat lawmakers and they've said, hey, crime is trending downward. One crime is too many, but it is trending downward. And President Trump is trampling on states' rights by coming in, sending the National Guard against the local leaders' wishes. What do you say to that?
Well, I think I would talk to the Democrats in terms of, well, what I would say to the Democrats is solve the problem yourselves, right? We've had this crime epidemic, and we've seen them continuously not take crime seriously. And the president is a man of action, and he's trying to take it seriously and find creative solutions to do that. And one of the ways to do that is to have the National Guard as a deterrent on the streets. So I think this is one of the more creative solutions we've seen to the issue, and I applaud the president for attempting to solve it, which has gone ignored mostly by local Democratic governments in the past. And that includes my opponent, Greg Landsman, who did vote to defund the police in the past and has not had a common sense approach to public safety. And this is not, this should really be a bipartisan issue to solve it. But unfortunately, the other party has not taken the appropriate steps at the local level to do so.
The DOJ previously, in DC specifically, said violent crime hit a 30-year low. There's also data saying that violent crime is going down in this country. But according to recent reporting from CBS, for the first close to 3 weeks that the National Guard has been in D.C., violent crime in the nation's capital is down year over year, close to 50%. But I do want to read some reporting from CNN on the National Guard in D.C. Quote, while domestic missions typically have National Guard troops responding to crises like hurricanes or wildfires, in D.C., much of their work has involved more mundane tasks, patrolling popular tourist destinations and assisting with beautification projects, including picking up trash, raking leaves, and laying mulch. And this is a mission that's reportedly costing $1 million a day. Do you think that's the best use of our troops?
I think it is. And what you're describing is a very civic-oriented deployment, which is what it is, right? It's a deployment of presence to make sure that crime is on the decline. But, while they're on the streets, being a deterrent presence, they're absolutely capable and happy to do other tasks, as you've mentioned. And I think that's actually a very good thing and a very positive thing about these deployments of National Guard troops to the cities.
And then aside from crime, you're also focused on the economy in your run. How would you attract these types of businesses to Cincinnati, to Ohio's congressional 1st District? How would you make the economy start working for them?
Of course. I think there's a couple things we can do, Brittany. I think first is to make sure that we're cutting taxes and putting money back into working class families and businesses. And I think the big beautiful bill was a great start in that direction. We have lower taxes all around the board, from the corporate side, and then also elimination of taxes on tips as well. So putting money back into the pockets of consumers who can spend is a way to create growth. And here specifically in Cincinnati, it's about having less mandates and less regulation to be able to attract the right businesses to come here, as well as the right young professionals as well, but also to encourage entrepreneurship. We want people to be able to feel comfortable taking the chance to start businesses here. And they do not feel comfortable doing that with high energy prices, high regulation, and too many mandates. So deregulating most of our economic agenda is critical to encouraging people to start businesses in the region and attracting the right ones.
I do not want to totally switch gears and look abroad for a moment. I want to get your perspective here as both a veteran of the Air Force as well as a former CIA officer. This week, China hosted their largest ever military parade, celebrating the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. And I think one of the most striking moments and images from this event were 3 leaders together, and they were Russian President Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. And I'm curious, What are your takeaways from this event, and what do you make of those three together?
Yeah, this is definitely a foundational moment in, I think, recent world affairs. And to me, what it demonstrates is that while we might not have wars that are shooting wars that we are involved in as of late, that doesn't mean that we don't have unconventional warfare. And I had a really good friend of mine ask me, and he said, Eric, when is World War III going to start? And I said, well, we've been in it. We've been in it for some time. And I think the way that we've seen countries kind of do conflict with one another in recent decades is through a very unconventional and subtle approach. That can mean economic warfare, it can mean espionage, it can mean sabotaging other countries' economic initiatives and businesses, it can mean the theft of intellectual property. So when we need to confront our adversaries, we need to confront them very strongly. And we're seeing a world order that wants to challenge us, and that is including Russia and China. So I think we need to take these threats very seriously at all aspects of our society. And we've even seen in recent years the Chinese government buying up farmland around U.S. military bases. We've seen them try to poison our crops as well. And we really need to take this concept of countries in conflict a little bit more liberally, in that just because it's not a shooting war doesn't mean we don't have differences with other countries, and we should combat those differences.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. When you're looking at it and telling to your friends, hey, we're actually in World War III right now. Who are the players, and where does the United States stand here?
Well, I think you have to take a step back and look at the world history since the end of World War II, right? And with the end of World War II from about 1945 onward, this has been an American-led world order, which is something that we've benefited from here from an economic perspective, and so has the rest of the world for the most part. And there have been challenges to that world order as of late, and that's mostly with the rise of China and the effects of that. So I think we need to acknowledge that our great lead that we had from an economic perspective after the end of World War II is probably no longer the case. And we need to create national security and economic policies to make sure that we're going to stay in the lead from an economic and national security point of view. And I think in the past, we've maybe gotten a tad complacent in those areas. So I really do commend the president for taking a fresh look at a lot of our policies that really have been more or less at a status quo for much of the last 70 years. So take a fresh look at national defense, foreign policy, and economic mechanics is a great way to do it, because we are kind of moving into a bit of a different world than we've had the last 80 years.
I do, before I let you go, I want to know what's next for your campaign, because we've seen throughout this country a redistricting fight start in Texas, move its way to California. Ohio is redrawing the maps as well. This district could be impacted by that. A, what do you think about that? And B, how is that impacting your campaigning, if at all?
Sure. Well, Ohio is legally required to redistrict this year. So this has been a planned redistricting for some time. And I have really no idea how it's going to pan out. But what I can tell you is that we are a full speed campaign. Everything I've done in my life has been at full speed, and this campaign is no different. So I intend to win wherever the lines are and defeat Greg Landsman, because we need a common sense representative and that leadership for a change in this region. So I've been very excited to do this campaign, and also honored to do it as well, and hopefully represent the people of Southwest Ohio, because they dearly need an advocate in DC that works for them. Though, as we mentioned, the world is changing very fast, and we don't have time to waste, especially when we're making sure that the Midwest is on the right trajectory for the future.
Eric, I appreciate your time today. Best of luck to you and your campaign, and you're welcome back anytime. Eric Conroy, thanks for joining me.
Brittany, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.